Riverside.
Welcome to Dance Talk with Joanne Carey, where the dance world connects, the conversations inspire, and where we are keeping them real. I'm your host, Joanne Carey, and today I am joined with two fabulous people who I was just talking with off camera. I'm joined with Mark Howard, who is the founding director of the Trinity Irish Dance Company, and Chelsea Hoy, associate artistic director, dancer and choreographer with the company. I'm happy to have them here. They're talking about all the upcoming things that are going on with the company, the transitions the company has gone under, the past, present, and the exciting future they're about to take on. So welcome both of you to Dance Talk.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I'd like to start with you, Mark. I would like to start with how you got involved with Irish dance. I want to start there.
Wow. Okay. Interestingly enough, Chelsea's the main historian around here. I think she knows more about the history than I do. I was forced to dance with my sister by European parents who wanted to rediscover their Celtic roots while living in Chicago.
Okay.
So I quit when I was 5, and then I quit when I was 8, and then I stuck with it when I was 9, mostly because there were more boys in the classroom. And then I stayed with it because I, got interested in girls later, and lasted till I was about 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And I probably would be the last person involved in that art form that somebody would have thought would go on to teach or coach, or let alone be a choreographer or an artistic director. It's all very much a happy accident.
Yeah. And so besides the boys being in class and the girls in class, what was it specifically, or was there something specific or several things that drew you to Irish dancing?
I think the fact that I wasn't terrible at it, I played sports and things, but I took to it kind of pretty easily. I never became like the top seeded person. I was what you might call a champion Irish dancer, but I was never, a force to be reckoned with, in competition or anything. It was just a fun activity for us.
Yeah, and it is. It always seems really fun to me. And I know it's not like tap dancing, but it's similar, like with the sounds. And I know your style and what the company does is a little more progressive than just traditional Irish dancing. But I was saying earlier to both of you that I had a dance studio, and right next door to me, or I should say across the parking lot, was an Irish dance school. And the kids would go from my studio, walk across the parking lot, and go to the Irish dancing. And I always loved to see what they were working on. So it's exciting, and tap and that kind of rhythm was never my strength. So I love to see it and people who can do it. And how about you, Chelsea? How did you come to Irish dancing? What was your background and beginning like?
Yeah, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, which is not a very Irish place, and I do not come from Irish descent. But my older sister joined an Irish dance class just to go with her friends. It was supposed to be a 6-week activity. She ended up dancing for 13 years. So I was introduced to Irish dance at the age of 2.
Wow.
And by the age of 4, I was joining my first class. I ended up taking a break because I wasn't super interested in people telling me what to do at that time. I wanted to create my own steps. But I went back to it at the age of 6. And I've been Irish dancing ever since.
Nice.
It was really what my whole family committed to in terms of an extracurricular activity.
For you, they committed to it for you, following you around and doing what. So were you on the competition circuit then with Irish dancing?
I was. I grew up dancing with the Wick School of Irish Dance in Denver. Mm-hmm. And inside of the Irish dance art form, there's really a couple things. There's the competition side of things where you go to the fesh. Mm-hmm. And then if you place high enough, then you start going to the regional
I see.
championships and the national championships and the world championships. Um, and then inside of that Irish dance world, people know that when they finish competing, which is typically around the end of high school,
Hmm.
in general, they usually just retire and they call themselves an Irish dancer for the rest of their life and meet people who are Irish dancers, and it's always a great connector. But then there's also commercial Irish dance productions,
Hmm.
which would be your biggest name brands, Riverdance
I
or
see.
Lord of the Dance.
Hmm.
Our industry is very overwhelmed by this commercialization.
Hmm.
And so there's opportunities for dancers to tour, but that is very much a temporary
Yeah.
endeavor. And then there's this one ensemble repertoire company that lives inside of the same world as contemporary dance companies, nonprofit dance companies, and that is Trinity Irish Dance
Hmm.
Company. So I actually saw Trinity perform when I was 8 years old. Um,
Wow. Okay.
so a seed was planted way back
Yes.
when, for sure.
Yes. So I thank you for sharing that. So Mark, I want to go back to you. So you started Trinity Irish Dance Company. I thought I read somewhere it was you were around the age of 20. Is that correct?
Well, the company started I was born in 62. The company started in 1990.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me do that math.
Yeah, yeah.
I started
28.
teaching Irish dancing. I started teaching at age 17, which is weird. And by age 19, I had started my own school, the Trinity Academy of Irish Dancing. And
Nice. And
some of the
so
milestones happened at early years, for sure. Like trying to
yeah,
win world titles or become an artistic director wasn't an ambition of mine. It just
just kind of
happened.
happened.
Hmm.
That's exciting. So you started this school and this company, and it kind of just seems like it fell into place. Like things were just moving along and going where they just were. The trajectory was just happening naturally.
Yeah, well, I've just been driven very much by misguided enthusiasm my entire life. So I've always thought I could do something that I had no business thinking I could do. And then, you know, either, you know, I'm happy for the universe or sad for it that I would, achieve these things sometimes, or people around me would, that allowed another door to open. And then I would try to choose the right door. And
Mhm.
like many people's lives, it led to where I'm at. I always loved the form. I always loved dance, and but mostly I loved the creative process.
Mhm.
And feel free in that. I'm actually an ADHD person, which of course I didn't find out until maybe 15 years
Mhm.
ago when people started to understand what that was. But that gift has been wonderful, and it's just who I am. I'm always thinking about what to do next or
Yeah.
different scenarios, and am blessed to live the life of an artist or a
Yeah.
creator. I feel
Yes.
very fortunate, and I want to give a shout out. Chelsea was mentioning family. She's got an extraordinary family. They weren't just following around for dance classes;
Mhm.
they still follow her around the globe.
Oh, that's great.
I've seen her family in Japan. I've seen her family all over North America. I mean, I'm talking cousins, aunts, parents, grandparents. There's an entourage anywhere Chelsea shows up on tour. So
That's exciting. I mean, and that says a lot about you, Chelsea, that they're there. But I find so often with the artists I spoke with and speak with on the podcast and just in my own circle and also my own family. I have my family when I do things, and I was telling you earlier about the little lecture dems I do and whatnot, and they follow me around too. So you have that support
right.
system. The support system is really, really important, and they're your cheerleaders, right? They're the ones that are cheering you
Mhm.
on, and it's great to have that support system. I would like.
Well, I also want to say I appreciate that they don't treat her like a disappointment, because she's a brilliant person that could be working at NASA or be a child psychologist or anything, and she chose to elevate the world in this way through
Yeah,
her many different abilities that all coalesced into something that made sense for her.
yeah,
Anyway,
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that about her on the podcast. That's nice to hear that. It's nice to hear that.
I'm just trying to get in her good graces, so like just all
It,
gratitude.
it sounds like the two of you have a great relationship. It's a great working relationship. Either one of you can answer this next question, but I just want you to, for the listeners, to maybe go back a little bit and explain for listeners what Irish dancing is and what Trinity does, like what their mission is and what their style, if you can even, pinpoint a style, is for the listeners. So either one of you or both of you can talk about that, please.
Yeah. So Irish dancing is an ethnic cultural dance form, very much a social dance form. It was born out of oppression. And so there's a lot of resistance and power that lives inside of this art form. During the penal days, when the British took over Ireland, they banned Irish music, Irish dancing, anything that would carry out Irish culture. And so obviously as a reaction to that, the Irish people did an amazing job to keep the dance alive and to keep the songs alive. And so from there, Irish dancing has a whole journey. There's so much rich history that lives inside of this form. It does find its way to the United States. When Mark opened the Trinity Academy of Irish Dance when he was still in his teenage years, Irish dancing was not very well known still at that point. It was growing, for sure, but when Mark started that school, he set out early on to win America's first world championship team titles, which at the time that was a crazy notion. That the United States would claim the gold in a championship team. And thanks to Mark's ambition and thanks to his creativity in great part, and also the students and families that got behind the vision, they did win America's first world championship team title in 1987. And then from there, they went on to break the record for every team category at the world championship level. And so there was a reaction inside of the United States to this team coming out of Chicago that was breaking barriers. And so there was a lot of news surrounding it. They were widely celebrated, but probably at the highest level, they were on the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. And so that's a really game-changing moment, not just for Mark and Trinity, but for Irish dancing at large. Irish dance was not well known. If you stop anyone on the street today, they know what Irish dancing is, or they could at least give you an imitation of it. But at the time, when Mark is sitting there with Johnny in 1989, Johnny asks on camera, "So, what is Irish dancing?" And so now when we watch it with dancers or new people coming into the company, we always have to kind of explain what that moment in time was.
Yeah.
From there, Mark started choreographing more for TV than for competition. In competition, Trinity is well known as the most disqualified school at the highest level, because every time they were bringing a new dance to try and achieve a world title, Mark was introducing innovative ideas that were definitely pushing the boundaries, always rooted in tradition, but exploring what was possible for the form.
Can you say what some of those are? Can you talk about what some of those ideas were that were pushing those boundaries and getting those disqualifications?
Well, they were in a category called dance drama, and I just, as a young creative, would look at the rules and think, well, it doesn't say this and it doesn't say that. That would be what would motivate me, and then the following year the rules would get longer, and then I'd have to come up with a different thing to do that it didn't say I couldn't do, and I wasn't getting the memos or something, and then eventually just thought I don't want to choreograph, put this kind of effort in for these kind of story ballets or on this level. I'd rather do that on the stage and for world premieres and things like that. So I evolved at some point there, but yeah, we got disqualified more than
one of the ones that has stood out to me is the introduction of spoken word inside of a soundtrack.
Okay.
So
That was
they seem like simple things now, but inside of this cultural art form, typically the soundtracks would just be traditional Irish
a
I
tunes.
lot of
see.
it. A lot of it. It was political also, and it was just sort of that's just so much to go into. But it, thank God, you know what I mean. We it was this fine line between brilliant and stupid. We would either win first or we'd get last, you know. And I'd rather be in one of those two positions, to be
Mhm.
honest with you, in life anyway. And I can certainly coach people from either one of those positions, you know.
Mhm.
So it was
So
meant to
then when
be.
you
We were like the black sheep, so we got spit out the other side of it gratefully. And you know, what was that Groucho Marx quote? I would never want to be a member of any club that would have me, kind of, which is like the Irish dance world, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to understand what Trinity is and what we do today, it's important to understand the history.
Mhm.
So when Mark started and Mark and Trinity started getting a lot of national media exposure, it was the first time that Irish dancing in this new way, meaning not on a competition
Mhm.
stage, not doing just a traditional social dance, was seen on a massive scale through the Tonight Show. And so through Mark realizing that all along he was really creating with the bigger picture in mind, thinking about
Mhm.
soundtracks, thinking about people moving through time and space. Obviously, it started with trying to win
Mhm.
a World Cup, which they did many times, and his school still continues to do today. Um, but there was people in the Chicago dance community very specifically that encouraged him, why don't you start a performing arts company
Mhm.
as a way? Why don't we create this to celebrate your body of work? And so inside of Irish dancing, that would have been very unheard of. There
Mhm.
was nothing like that of its kind. So fast forward 5 years after the company is formed and creating repertoire, this big commercial show, Riverdance, hits the
Mhm.
scene. And Riverdance is very much a commercial reaction
Mhm.
to one of Mark's early works called Johnny, that was seen on The Tonight Show. Um, and so we're very grateful to the way that commercial Irish dance has made Irish dancing known around the globe.
Mhm.
Um, but on the flip side, it has very much made Irish dance into a commodity, a product to be bought and sold,
Mhm.
something that is stagnant in terms of the art
Mhm.
staying the same. It's stuck in a box, as we like to say. So Trinity Irish Dance Company always has been and continues to be a place where Irish dance can grow artistically and it can be celebrated for its roots, where the traditions of Irish step dance come from. But we can also push that into the contemporary realm to make it accessible to audiences today, and specifically to bring Irish dance into the performing arts dance space, which historically it would have been separated from as an ethnic form.
Right.
So Mark set out to make sure Irish dance was celebrated in the artistic sphere, not just as an ethnic cultural form.
Yeah.
And he very much has succeeded through that. And we continue to celebrate his genre that he created called progressive Irish dance.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? It means whatever we decide it means
Mhm.
with each new piece. There's definitely a taste level that Mark created. It's very intangible, but when you see Trinity work, it's very distinct,
Mhm.
and it definitely is all based in the traditions, but is pushing the ball forward and making sure that Irish dance can grow and breathe and evolve, but with integrity.
Yes, I think, when I hear you talking, I don't think you're alone in that. I hear so much in the conversations I've had on the podcast, and also just with my colleagues too. I think so many companies, ballet companies, modern companies, contemporary companies are all trying to do that same thing, to grow and to evolve and to um, speak to the current audience, to the people now, still staying rooted in their tradition, but growing. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you go back. That's what rehearsal's for, right? And that's what we do as artists. We try these things. And when I hear you speak as well, with my modern background, it sounds like there's so much modern and contemporary dance within the basis of what your Irish Dance Company is doing. So that sounds so intriguing to me, that contemporary aspect, that the contemporary lines, the contemporary and modern things that as a modern dancer you would explore. It sounds like now that layer is existing within the company. Am I on the right track there?
Well, I would say you're on the right track in that, Trinity Irish Dance Company is a place that created its own genre, its own dance form, its own vocabulary that transcended the traditional. Trinity Irish Dance Company is a place that pushes those boundaries, but in an integrity-filled way that honors the ancestors while offering a potpourri of solutions for where the art form can go and grow. And the performing arts backdrop is where we're able to plant those seeds. And I always loved any type of dance, and I drew inspiration from all types of dance, but really contemporary or modern dance is the place where I saw possibilities to collaborate with people that could maybe teach me and teach the dancers how to expand our toolbox, how to expand our vocabulary. And, very specifically tap recently, and working with Michelle Dorrance and Brill Barrett and Star Dixon here in Chicago, and Lane Alexander. We've obviously learned a few things there, but it's hard to describe what we do because we're the only ones in the world that do what we do. Sadly, we're the only ones right now. We hope there's more performing arts companies like this that emerge, but it's a body of work that's always fervently pushing to find the next idea, to help the art form grow, and as Chelsea pointed out, to not let it become trite or silly or marginalized or literally become a cartoon of itself, which the popularity of it has certainly led to that. It would have been very difficult for me to watch, late night TV personalities make fun of Irish dancing or, through, Mr. Flatley and whatever.
Yeah.
So Trinity's here to make sure that there's a place that isn't driven by money, where the art form can be nurtured in a respectful way without us being traditional Nazis, as I like to call people who think any kind of innovation is, an abomination of some sort.
I think
we're in love with. Go ahead, Chelsea. Start.
I was going to say, no, I think Mark's greatest strength in terms of creating this company, or really the community creating this company as a way to celebrate his work, is that he, as an Irish dancer, an Irish American, his dad comes here from Ireland, his mom from England. He did not grow up with dance as structure. Nor did myself, nor did any of our company members. We grow up inside of Irish step dance, which, even though it has become a super athletic, highly competitive art form, it really still is a cultural ethnic form. It's changing a little bit now, where people are realizing, oh, we need to warm up, or we need to take care of our bodies. But even when I was growing up, Irish dancing, it was closer to Irish dance in the 17 and 1800s than it would be to ballet class, where you have an understanding of how your body is moving through time and space, or how people are moving through and across the floor. So I've always seen that because Mark did not go to school for choreography, he did not set out to be a dancer that could then one day be in a professional company, simply because that did not exist. That's his greatest strength, in terms of often finding his way to the greatest work backwards, or just drawing inspiration from everywhere. Contemporary dance definitely is a big inspiration, but music of all kinds, or a sign that he sees on the street. It's very much a Chicago-born company, and it's very much a company that was born out of Mark's brain and an artistic inclination that was just very natural to him rather than something that someone taught him.
Yeah.
I think ADHD is the greatest gift that it probably is the biggest reason why there's a Trinity Irish Dance Company. And also just growing up in the 70s, I'm sad to say that, and just to get this message out, I don't know how to change what's happening, but as we stare down such a connected world, I'm part of like the last crop of people that allowed themselves to be bored, especially in the summers, before going back to school. I don't know how long we had off school, but I'd have to manufacture how to entertain myself. So creativity is born out of having to use your imagination, and we're in a crisis really of presence anymore. I think it's hard to be alone without a device for people. And I don't know who it was that said that, I don't remember who said it or what they said. How's that? But just, the, like man's suffering can be boiled down to not being able to be alone by oneself. You know what I mean? So, how are we going to ever achieve bliss with everybody occupied all the time? So, I feel very fortunate to have grown up when I did, to have the type of imagination we were afforded.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Mark, too, because I didn't have the amount of connectivity that we have today growing up either. And when I was teaching and I had my studio too, when I first had my studio, there wasn't the amount of phones and all that stuff, and use of imagination. Imagination is so important, and that's what I think makes artists so essential. And when I hear you talk, it's not a new conversation. It's the artistic conversation. It's the artists like you both, and the artists that I have on this program who talk about the need and the real desire inside of you, the artist, to really make the world a better place and to move people and to have us be connected and to speak a language of connectedness through our art, and to drive that forward. So your conversation is one that I keep having and hearing the desire of the guests I have on. So you're all having, myself included, that same desire for those around us.
Another blessing, quite frankly, that leads to the innovation of Trinity Irish Dance Company and the creativity is like the fact that I never even had the option to become elitist the way some people can be in dance, where they act like they're wizards or something, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was never schooled for dance, and that, as Chelsea said, in structure. So I've always been trying to learn from people. So my ego has always been in my back pocket, because I never at any given moment think I completely know what I'm doing. And so you surround yourself with people, talented people, and it's easier to be creative in a group. I find that I always find my best work when I'm bouncing it off of other artists, and then you have to have a team that you trust, and an atmosphere that's free, and that you can problem solve. And that's why Chelsea is such an amazing person to have here, because of her skills and her analytic and her creative mind. So that would be some advice I'd throw out there to people, is to stop talking and maybe listen more and collaborate.
Yeah, and move, right? And move. Let's
Evolve.
talk about your current season as well as your upcoming season, because you have a big 35th anniversary season coming up. But I know off camera we were just talking about that. I believe you said you had started your current season started this past November. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
December. And so why don't you talk about your current season, and then talk about this fabulous 35th anniversary season that's coming up.
Yeah, so our 2025 season is underway. We were just in the beautiful town of Lyndonville, Vermont last month. And in a couple weeks here, we're headed out for 6 different cities. And this will be the second ever season of Jig. a Trinity Irish Dance Company production. So this is something that we launched last year. It had a very successful premiere across the country, and Jig is a new way to experience Trinity Irish Dance Company and the innovation both through music and dance. Trinity has always and will always perform and tour with a live band.
Which I love. That's amazing.
4 live musicians, and Mark is always really keyed on Trinity Irish Dance Company artists' abilities to break the fourth wall with an audience and reach out and connect. And part of that is just what Mark was talking about, the vulnerability we have growing up as Irish dancers, that we are jumping into different realms that isn't something that we necessarily grew up with. And so Jig was really created as a way to double down on that concept, a way to invite the audience into the performance to reduce the separation between stage and audiences. So Jig is headed to Ohio, Utah, Washington, Oregon, Boston. I think we're literally covering coast to coast. And so that'll be coming up in January and February. In March, we're headed to San Diego, and that will gear us up for May, which is the kickoff of our 35th anniversary season at home at Chicago's Museum of Contemporary Art.
That's cool.
And so we're going to kick off there with 5 performances, an opening night, gala celebration, and the world premiere of our newest work called The Sash, which is a collaboration between Mark, myself, and Stephanie Martinez, who's a very well-known Chicago-based contemporary choreographer. Do you want to add anything there, Mark?
About Jig? I'm excited about Jig. Jig being this, half as many dancers and more band forward, an immersive experience that I think we've succeeded because we did some dates last year and now we're going out again to try to find an alternative way for people to enjoy the performing arts. So when you walk in, people, the ushers are going to hand you a program saying, "Welcome to Jig." The theater smells like Irish turf burning through the diffuser that we use.
That's cool.
There are these vibrations that, last for 30 minutes and then again an intermission that were created by Kevin Sharkey, a phenomenal composer living, he's from Northern Ireland, but he's living in the Lake District of England. And he's also the composer of the new piece, the soundtrack for The Sash. But it creates this like shared experience that's somewhat sacred and helps people, at a time when the world needs some healing. These dancers and musicians are like sound and movement doctors that are looking for something with humanity in it. And I was out with Chelsea and the rest of the group doing Jig last year, and one of the communities I remember was Ketchum, Idaho, which I've never been to. And in Ketchum, it's all cowgirl chic meets skiing gear and really big expensive steaks and potatoes, and you get the sense that the billionaires are pushing the millionaires out. And I met some people before the performance that the presenter introduced me to, a gentleman that spent $10 million on killing the light pollution in the area, the woman who's the theater's named after, and all of that. And after that performance, our lead singer Brendan O'Shea and our band and our 9 dancers had transformed that room into a place of people weeping that were kind of telling me in the lobby afterwards that they had figured out sort of the meaning of life. I'm kidding, but it was sort of, it really resonated with people, and we're really thrilled about that. And we're thrilled at this moment in time as there's a new president coming into office. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and at that exact moment, we're going to be out on tour with Jig, which Al's right in the world as far as I'm concerned. Because it's anyway. I'm sorry.
No, I'm intrigued. I'm just thinking how deep you are. You're very profound. You have very profound thoughts, but I love that because I get it. So keep going, keep talking, keep saying what you're saying.
Dance and music are commodities that we sort of consume with our mind, and I as humans, we want to connect. I mean, that's just our baseline. And I believe that, you know, at times we're alive because of the arts. It's not something we can do without. So I'm just so grateful to have the job that I have at this moment. I feel more relevant now than I ever have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these incredible instruments of love that call themselves dancers.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the energy of a group of dancers. They're the most innocent, beautiful beings that I can imagine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I do, and I mean that when I say like I enjoy hearing your passion and also just your profound thoughts that you have. And it's, dancers, artists, performers empty themselves to serve the piece that they're going to perform. And you remind me of not you personally, but when you were speaking of jig, I was visualizing in my head when you were talking about smelling the turf and these types of other sensory things going on to have this whole experience. I get this image in my head. I'm of Irish descent. My father is Irish, and I'm half Irish. So when your name and Trinity came across my desk, I was like, yes, because it was Irish. That was like, my first instinct. But to go beyond that, it sounds like, and I don't have a big understanding of Celtic tradition and all of that, just things with my father. My father was always listening to Irish music, and we went back to Ireland to find our ancestors and all that sort of stuff. But it sounds like you also put that Celtic tradition, and you spoke about that at the beginning of the podcast, that you honor tradition and you honor those roots. And it sounds like it has that, I feel like I can hear almost the pounding, those drums that they use and the different instruments that you associate with, or I associate with, Celtic music. And you spoke about earlier how in tradition wise, it was this response to the oppression, and I didn't know that about that. I didn't know how oppressed, I knew a little bit, but when you explained it, it made sense then to hear, because whenever I hear that kind of Irish music, I feel like it pounds inside of my soul.
Yeah, it's tribal.
Yes.
It's important. It's not something to be trite or silly or to be commercialized in the way it has been. It is like there's literally a dance called the strip jig inside the show Lord of the Dance. Like, what the hell is that?
Right.
When I or Chelsea or any of the dancers in my company, certainly our company, see African dance, we immediately connect on a visceral level to how culturally important that form is. That's not something to trot out in Black History Month, you know what I mean? In front of, or beyond, the Channel 2 News or whatever, during Black History Month.
Yeah.
Or when you watch Indian dance, it's intoxicating. There are so many layers to, just the way the food is layered, you know what I mean? And all of it's precious. And Trinity's performances are, create a sort of a sacred shared experience where people feel safe and, safe to process their emotions, surrounded by complete strangers. And the TIDC's honesty, starting with their leader here, Chelsea, and the vulnerability consistently strikes an emotional chord. And simply seeing the raw power of the dancers during, opening seconds of a performance can move people to tears if it's done right. And doing it right is just being real. It's honest rhythms. It's letting an art form on some level stand for itself. And so innovative, fresh work and presented live. That's the buzz for me. That kinetic energy that is created between an audience and live dance that makes us all feel, all of us, the audience and the dancers, feel like we're riding a wave, and it's like a living, breathing thing. And when it's over, everybody should be out of breath and walking out of a theater looking for the next dance concert to go to, because there isn't a better art form. And Chelsea, you've spoken so many times about why that is. You know what I mean? Just because of her analytic brain, or because of things you want to share what happens when somebody watches dance. I know that Joni already knows. Joanne, sorry.
That's okay.
It's Irish, right, Joanne? Yeah, dance is a very visceral form, but I studied psychology in college, and I've always been fascinated by the human brain. And I came across this at some point when we were choreographing a work, or I was reading some book. But the mirror neurons in our brain, which is how you learn how to walk or how you learn how to talk, those activate very much so when you're watching dance. So when you're watching a dancer on stage, your brain is mapping their movement. Even if you personally can't physically do what they're doing, your brain is activating as if you are. And there's not a lot of studies about it, but there's enough studies to show that someone watching dance gets at least half the benefit of the actual dancer just by sitting and watching it.
Wow.
I don't know if that occurs when you're watching through a screen, but I can imagine that the human to human, watching a human body move through time and space, just like you do when you're learning how to walk or run, or when you're in dance class, learning how to do a new step or a new trick. If you have someone in front of you doing it, it's literally shaping your brain and the way that your brain is activating. And so there's a great power to that, to know that as a dancer, you quite literally can change the way someone's brain is activating for an hour or 2 hours or however long they've shut off all the noise to come see what you do and to come feel what you do.
Yeah, I like that. Come feel what you do. And it's like, when you, or for me, I know the minute I walk into a dance studio, I'm like, I feel like everything just melts away, and I'm like, I could be here forever, or you take, like this morning I took class, and in class, I just driving to class, I was in all this traffic, and I'm like, but I knew the minute I would get there, none of that would matter. It would just, what would matter was how I knew I would feel, taking that class, dancing that class. And then I came back, and when I was driving home, I had to drive home in silence first, because I just was taking it all in, and I was feeling so grateful. And that's like what you're saying, like dance does that. I was different. I came out of that class different than when I entered. And it's the same thing with an audience member. You go to live performance, you want that audience member to come out different, changed, for the better, right? Change in some way. Then right. Then the way, we're not saying, people are bad. We're just saying that, we want, that's what dance does. It makes you different. You have an experience, and whatever that experience, it's individual for everybody, and it's collective at the same time, and it's very powerful. And it sounds like, I love how passionate you both are, and how passionate the choreography and the company sounds. Even on the website, the photographs are powerful. Like when I was first, I think at first your stuff came across my desk in the fall, I think. And when I was first like looking at the website and reading everything, I just was struck by the power of how the dancers looked, and the intensity, and just that force. It wasn't fierce. It wasn't like this fierce. It wasn't angry. It was just this power in the human body, the power in what was being set in motion, the power. And those are still photographs. So I can only imagine what's happening live on stage.
Well, we have the great Lois Greenfield to thank for those photos. She's shot the company for the last 20 years or so, and she's a genius in New York City. And but also, Chelsea will talk a lot about, like, we intentionally costume dancers. Why don't you explain, Chelsea, how the athleticism of the dancers is what we key on.
Yeah, power lives inside of Irish dancing for sure. It's what drew me as a young child to it. I did not like to do soft shoe. I wanted to make noise. And the louder I could be, the better, as far as I was concerned. So Trinity Irish Dance Company very uniquely is primarily a female company, always has been. But more than just the numbers of who's on stage, we intentionally put the women out front, celebrate the power and strength of women. We always are performing with 2 male dancers at any given time. But it's a really important part of our mission to empower females, to put males and females on equal footing, to get rid of this perception that a male dancer, which very much lives inside of our art form, Irish dance, that a male dancer can do the harder steps, or a male dancer has the hard shoes on while the females are in their soft shoes doing the more graceful dance. We break those barriers down, and it's important to all of us. It's very much personally important to me that any audience member, but especially young kids, can look up and see the power of who they can become, whether they're going to continue on the dance floor or not. But Irish dance traditionally is a gendered art form. Most cultural dance forms are. Competitively, it's interesting if you follow that thread that stayed there. So there's a dance, they're starting to change a little bit now, but there's a dance that was only for girls. There was harder steps for boys. And then the commercialization of Irish dance, unfortunately, has carried that through. So a lot of those commercial shows will have a male savior running out front in the hard shoes. The females are often in a back line. There's always a love story going on. And so Trinity really breaks down that stereotype that unfortunately is reinforced, obviously, all over the entertainment industry, but specifically inside of this beautiful, cultural, powerful art form. There's not many places other than Trinity where you can look and see the power and strength of women. And so we hope, and I'm grateful to hear that you read that through those photographs. That is who we are. That is what we live and breathe. But it's also becoming more and more of an anomaly. And so we're hoping that by making it a centerpiece of who we are and what we do, that other people will be inspired by that and will follow that thread a little more.
And speaking of the people that'll be inspired, Joanne, I know that a lot of people that listen to your podcast are dance professionals and artistic directors and choreographers, and they of course want to hear what works for us, you know what I mean, and what's made us successful. And I have to say that we are so picky about the dancers that we choose. And at any given moment, there's a couple of world champions, soloists, in our dance company, but we could care less what they won in a competition. That's through a happy accident. We choose dancers that are for sure of a high intellect, because I definitely know, not just believe, that you have to do a sort of a cerebral jump to achieve kindness and empathy, in a world that needs it. And all of the dancers in our company are individually very powerful. We watch in our intensives or our trainings to see who is the last one to take food off the table, or who's there to help clean up afterwards, or how they treat each other. Like these things, these virtues become more important to us than their Irish dance prowess. Of course, to even be in the company, your upfront Irish dance skills have to be tremendous. But because of their diversity and because of their brain power, they cumulatively, consistently are and have been the most innovative Irish dance company in the world at any given moment, and we get loads of letters from presenters and audience members about how extraordinary the company members are, but we see them as an elite group of people. Any one of them can hold the stage. Any one of them will clean up the dressing room and leave it better than the way they found it. Any one of them can lead a huge master class and do it fabulously well, because being exceptional is expected right out of the gates. But it's about the way people treat each other, and I'm just hoping that we all start moving more in that direction of how we're treating each other, and I could just go on and on. So
no,
digress to the politics. of our day.
No, it's fine. We lead by example. I just want to, this is my own curiosity, but I bet perhaps some listeners out there. Mark, how did you come up with the name Trinity Irish Dance Company?
Another happy accident. And it's interesting, for a guy who was very gendered, like I told you earlier, I had, because there were boys in the class, I stayed. And then later, because I liked girls, I stayed. I had my place for boys and girls. But I also want to say, being around all of these powerful athletes and these young people, I learn from them every day. So a part of the secret to all of us in society is we have to evolve. And I'm at a place where I don't want anybody stuck in a box or told who they are or how they should feel or how they should dress or who they should love, and all of that. So we all need to become those open channels, for love and acceptance and compassion. But anyway, I digress out of whatever I was talking about.
Trinity, why'd you name it
Trinity? Well, I was on a lot of sports teams and stuff, and I just got obsessed with the idea of my Irish dance school that had started needed a logo of some sort to be on the costume, the way I something on my a letter on my jacket. And so I drew this like shamrock with a Celtic cross in the middle of it. And then I had a graphic artist help that. And then they made a patch out of it, and that patch. And then, Trinity is the Father, Son, Holy Ghost when you grew up Catholic. And in Ireland, the legend is that St. Patrick, explained that there could be three things in one because of the three leaves. Anyway, so the word Trinity just stuck, and it's a magic word. It's got 7 letters that graphic artists love, and anywhere I've gone in the world, it has a different meaning in different cultures. And it was one of the few Irish dance schools that wasn't named after the teacher. So my dance school should be called Mark Howard Irish Dance School or the Howard School of Irish Dancing. And it was rare, if not unheard of, to name your school something like Trinity. So that allowed me to have a staff of teachers and a group of us that became Trinity and still, and then the company, The Blessing, I was really against calling the company Trinity Irish Dance Company because it was a new venture for me, and I didn't want to rest on the laurels of yesteryear. It was new ground, but when I think about it, I love that the name of my company isn't Alvin Ailey or Trish Brown or Mark Morris because when I'm gone, I don't need anybody running around trying to perpetuate this Mark Howard thing. It's Trinity, what I mean? And it's an institution that I'm part of, and grateful to be part of, and proud to be part of.
Yeah, no, that's great because I also thought it had in mind like the Trinity knot, that the Trinity knot that you find so often with or associate with Irish.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this has just been a great conversation. Is there anything either of you would like to share or talk about that we haven't touched upon? That we haven't talked about yet. I know we talked about the season, May 16th, right? May 16th to the 18th. Is that correct? Chicago's Museum of Contemporary Art kicks off everything.
Maybe we could talk just about the arc of the 35th.
Oh yeah,
if that's okay.
Sure.
So our 35th anniversary season will kick off at home at Chicago's Museum of Contemporary Art in May. We'll be celebrating the world premiere of The Sash, choreographed by myself, Mark, and Stephanie Martinez. That's a collaboration that will really speak to today and the healing that the world needs, but also speaks to Mark's vision to always collaborate. And collaboration is how you evolve and how you grow. And it's something that's built into the centerpiece of what Trinity is and how we push the boundaries for the art form.
By the way, it's a piece about choosing kindness because we don't have that much time on the planet to treat each other like crap. So
nice. Cut to the chase, Mark.
And then following the Museum of Contemporary Art this summer, Trinity Irish Dance Company will be presented at Jacob's Pillow for the first time in our 30-year legacy. So
That's
we will be
exciting.
presented for a week at the Ted Shawn Theater, and it's a very exciting moment, of course, for the company and all the artists who will take part. But I think even more importantly, it's a very exciting moment for Irish step dance. Um, it's Mark's vision going back 35 years now to get Irish dance to be celebrated inside of the concert dance world,
Nice.
and to not be relegated as part of the ethnic dance world only. It's a big moment.
It is.
For it to happen.
They're letting the peasant Irish into the Museum of Contemporary Art and Jacob Willow.
Yes, well,
What the hell's going on in the world?
that's exciting, right? That's a big deal.
For the Irish.
What'd you say?
And then this summer,
For the Irish.
this summer, on the heels of premiering a new collaboration, we will also be in creation with Michelle Dorrance for her second ever work that she's created on Trinity Irish Dance Company. And you were speaking earlier about the rhythms and the power, and I think it's important to take a moment for percussive dance. I think percussive dance in many ways has been looked over in terms of being celebrated alongside ballet and contemporary dance. And there's a great power to it. Tap dance and Irish dance are very different art forms, but they do have intertwined histories. Tap dance has very much influenced Irish dance and vice versa. And it's an important story to tell, but people also just love to hear rhythms. Mark always says the first rhythm you ever hear is the first sound you ever hear is the beat of your mother's heart.
Oh, I didn't say that. I heard that from some other artist who heard it from another.
Well, you always say it.
That's probably something Bill P. Jones said. I have no idea where that originated. Maybe Moses said it or something.
Right.
But yeah, it's an important way to get someone's attention, and I think specifically with Irish dance, the rhythms and the music that goes along with traditional Irish dance, it just captures your spirit. There's something familiar about it. There is this oppression that lives inside of it. But I think percussive dance is on the rise, and Trinity Irish Dance Company just can't wait to kick off our 35th anniversary.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. And I'm glad you are sharing it with me and my listeners. I thank you both for joining me today on Dance Talk. It's been really great to have you both here. I wish you luck in your current season that you are in and this exciting upcoming season. I just want to thank you both again for joining me. If there's anything you want to leave the listeners with, please do so. I will put all this information in the show notes for everybody. And again, I just thank you and welcome you back anytime to keep sharing about Irish dance and moving that kindness pulse forward, right? Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And, as a founding artistic director, it's fun to maybe pretend that all of your audience are new company members at Trinity Irish Dance Company. So my message to everybody would be, in life, in this company, inclusivity, acceptance, coexistence, compassion. And it's not about you. Get a mission, follow the mission. It's about the work, everybody. It's about achieving together.
Yes, I like it. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. This is Dance Talk with Joanne Carey. Follow us, like us, and share, share, share. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joanne.
Powered by Riverside.